friends love you more. I know it, my mother declared, slightly sad. It was post brunch, and the unlimited elderflower sangria had completely replaced the blood in her vessels. At the time, I did not realize that is not an okay statement to say to your kid, but it was not an abnormal one, drunk or sober. My mother and father were like the heads and tails of a narcissistic coin. My mother, as the tails portion, felt I was a reflection of her, which made her insist that I had to make everyone she loved love me as well. But if they loved me more, well, I'd done my job a little too well. Meanwhile, my dad wanted the world to hate me. Looking back, I can understand why people do not vote. Both parties are shit. No, they love you, I replied in a comforting smile. To be honest, I have struggled with realizing when people like me, in part because both my parents treated me like some type of burden. My father felt I was the emotional link to his third wife, and by how she defended him, a chance to make, maybe, a third link. Up again? My mother turned me into her carried suicide note, undecided if she wanted to stay or leave this world because of me. I had both their moods riding on how I either made them shine or made others believe they were shiny. This made interactions with others feel confusing because I was trying to read their moods over their motives and not even asking myself why either even mattered. And God loves you more too, my mother declared. She was a little brunch tipsy, and at the time I was still a little validation seeking. No, he loves all of us equally, I responded. My mother had drunkenly vomited on a church with her friend, which felt like a clue that an $8 train was going to have to tragically and financially be replaced by an $80 Uber. As the taxi sped through BK Bridge, I received flashbacks from my Sweet 16, where my mother got super drunk, declared she still loved my dad, told my criticizing grandmother to shut up, and made me cry. Something about these extremely rare moments where my mother let the auto destruct replace the auto repression were revelatory about a woman who never liked to show her true feelings or intentions, even to herself. Go to sleep, I said, patting her as my arm went over her shoulder. I was cradling her like I often did, as if I was the mom. Everyone loves you, I said. No, everyone loves you, she yelped and slouched into my chest. The whole time I looked outside to see a whisking New York City pass me by, not realizing an existential truth or question had landed upon my head. If my mother competed with me for others' love, how much did I truly have her love? All right, let's discuss. My mother, never did, very, very, very rarely did she get like white girl wasted. And she didn't do drugs, or at least she didn't. She one time admitted that she occasionally did weed, and that made her really like ice cream. She was obsessed with looking like a saint. And then my father was such a savage that I think that made her even more obsessed with looking like perfect and good. Um, Ironically, they both had the same obsession, which was image control. And my mother got really wasted on this delicious sangria. Her friend did too, and it was really, really funny. And we laughed, and then we got into the taxi. My mother was like, my friends love you more, and this was not the first time she had ever told me that. It had been huh. My mother is always competing with me in a very passive aggressive, subtle way, but I never picked it up because of moments like this where, if somebody says everybody loves you more, if your sister or your boyfriend, your mom tells you everybody loves you more, there's something about that is, you might not pick up that it's jealousy because it sounds so tragically insecure. Like I didn't see it as my mother envies me, even though she repeated it a lot. I genuinely saw it as, like people love you, people like you. Yeah, I'm funny and I'm smart, but you are too. You're just shyer. Like I really just thought of it as like I've got to comfort this person, especially because my mother's family didn't like her. So she really turned mentally her friends into her family. And I had to make them like me, and I had to And if one of them didn't like me, that was on me too, because then she would confront me, like you didn't impress them. Like I swear, it was like I was being coached for the friendship Olympics, but they wasn't even my friends. And I I was feeling really bad for her and I was comforting her. And then she goes, and God loves you more too. And God is going to come up a few times because my father always said God, it loved him more. And my mother always said God loved me more. So it's this weird kind of narcissistic, like, what's going on here? Why are we competing? Why are we comparing? Now even Jesus is in the mix. And I just felt really bad for my mother, along with the fact that she always said that, even when sober. And very, very rarely did she get drunk. But something about that moment made me relive. In my sweet 16, she got white girl wasted again, just very, very drunk by accident. She had like, she says by accident, but I think if you have 10 margaritas and guayaba cake, you're a goner. And she did like we were driving back and she just couldn't stop throwing up and saying how much she was still in love with my dad and telling my grandmother, seeing my mother was drunk, just started like making fun of her and criticizing her. And this is how you know there's some lineage here, right? Like that's not the time. You shouldn't do that to your child when they're sober or drunk. You shouldn't do that whether you're sober or drunk. But that shows you a little bit of the maternal instinct in my family generationally. And my mother was like, just shut the fuck up, like just going off. And I remembered there was this weird mirror moment that happened to me mentally while I was looking outside at the breezing New York and being like, damn, this is an $80 Uber. But we needed it. She was schweistedt. And I I think the reason the moments mirrored to me is that there's always anybody who's gone through at least one year of college in the US knows drunk words are sober thoughts. And I remember just being like really surprised at how angry my mother was at my grandmother. Like, oh, and how, I love ya. I don't know if she necessarily meant that she loved my dad, but when I look at the women in my family and how they viewed men, there was a lot of machismo and this really, despite all evidence, sincere belief that men were providing to you. Like they were somehow your stability, they were your level up. And I I think it's because the women in my family mistreated each other so much. All the women in my family made their sons kind of like their dream husband, the perfect guy I don't have to sleep with. And they made their daughters the emotional punching bag, the most imperfect kid to make sure that I'm okay. And me and my mother fell into that mix 100%. But feel like I fell in because narcissists gaslight you and they kind of make you believe that you and them are this team, us versus the world. And you never really ask why it's versus the world or why, if we're a team, we're in a fight. Like, why can't we just play, I don't know, Barbies? Like, what is this? Everything is competing, some form of competitive sport. So there was a little bit of a seed planted in that moment. And in perspective, as I look back, I'm like, oh, snap. Like there were a lot of off things. Like the fact that she was drunk and kind of coming at me because her friends like me more, or that's what she perceived. I never saw that as endangering in some ways or a real, like, you got to question that because if your own mom is competing for love with you, how much do they love you? How much can they love you? And I'm going to tell you right now from personal experience, not a lot. Check out daddyrecovery.com and check out Hardin on all music platforms.